Hi, Steve Addison here for the Movements Podcast, the podcast for people who want to multiply disciples and churches everywhere. Before we begin the episode, I wanted to share with you about a new book I've got coming out, Your Part in God's Story, 40 Days from Genesis to Revelation. When Jesus rose from the dead, he encountered a group of disciples who were defeated and disillusioned, just like us. He had just 40 days to restore them and prepare them for a worldwide mission. So what did he do? He began in the books of Moses and took them all the way through to Malachi. And he showed them the great movement of God that culminated in his coming, in his suffering, in his victory, in his worldwide mission to make disciples of all nations. This book is your chance to spend 40 days with Jesus while he reveals your part in God's story. The starting point is his living word and the Holy Spirit. We'll look at 40 decisive moments on the road from Genesis to Revelation. We'll trust Jesus to do for us what he did for those disciples. He found them in their weakness and failure. He opened their eyes so they could understand his word. He showed them their part in God's story. He promised them the power of the Holy Spirit, and then he unleashed them on the world. Your part in God's story, 40 days from Genesis to Revelation. I'm Steve Addison, and that is the challenge. To find out more about your part in God's story and the 40-day challenge that goes with it, visit movements.net. Now let's hear from Joel Shaw about online training that multiplies workers in local communities that make disciples and plant churches.
Well, Steve, I think it was in 2019. That was a total game changer for me when you brought Troy Cooper and Rick Priato and Jenny and a bunch of the guys over. And I talk about this more extensively in the previous podcast. But so we did the four fields intensive that year. 2019 was just such an amazing year. I think we did Brisbane, we did Bendigo, Ipswich, and Perth. And I was just so excited about what the Lord was doing. And then coming into 2020, as you know, we've run quite a few ministry schools, supernatural schools. I ran about 6 years worth of those. And so really had it on my heart to do an in-person one, really based on the four fields, as well as adding some other things and getting a local team on the ground. And but also being able to empower them to send them to the nations. We live in quite a multicultural area. And so the idea was that we bring in a lot of students from overseas to implement No Place Left and Four Fields principles locally, and then begin to start to see multiplication through the different nationalities. And so that's really where we were tracking in 2020. So we started to lay some of the groundwork for that. And then, as you know, things changed significantly for us. And so we run a church community. All of our vision and our dreams to run a local school, certainly for 2020, were completely closed once COVID came in. And at that time, I think it was about a year previous, some of the team members mentioned about doing an online school, which I was probably initially opposed to because I really loved the in-person connection, and we hadn't been set up for, any online facilities. We didn't have the infrastructure. We didn't have the experience to be able to do that. So here we are in 2020. We've had a lot of prophetic words about things going to the nations. We were doing a lot of things with the Philippines as well. And so we had missions trips where we're going to do other 4 fields intensives. So all of our missions trips dried up. And so we're just kind of left in this moment saying, Lord, well, where to from here in terms of COVID? And so from there, we just started to dream about, I think we as a church community, we launched a Zoom church platform. So then rather than just streaming our services, we wanted to begin to implement some of the 3/3 process, but we couldn't just do that by streaming our services. We needed to have some form of connection. And so we started to learn how we could create that space for interaction through the 3/3, and we were really excited about that. And then I think it was in about March, we launched a online evangelistic event called Hope in the Harvest. And so there was about 1,600 people that joined us for that. We trained people to share the testimonies online. And so all of this was kind of a learning process. And so out of it, we're like, why don't we try doing a school? So we launched what we called the Sending Center from that. There was about 50 students that joined us on that. It was a 3-month school, and we implemented, the 411, the commands of Christ, and the 3/3. And we started to really learn how to engage with people online. We were amazed by the level of connection that it was producing. There was a lot of testimonies, a lot of gospel shares that were going out. So we were pleasantly surprised with the fruit that actually came out from the Sending Center. But the biggest challenge, Steve, was that once we'd finished the Sending Center, we were just dealing with individuals online. So different people would be signing on Zoom, and we would go into breakout rooms, and then they would connect that way. So we were hoping that they would start their own groups and churches after the Sending Center, but we found that it was only a few who actually went through with it to actually start after. So I felt like there was quite a big challenge in actually gathering the groups together from the Sending Center. So we started to dream about it and about launching something in 2021. And this time we thought, what if rather than just training individuals online and encouraging them to go and start groups and churches, what if we start with gathering groups? So we made a decision, because I think there was actually quite a lot of logistical issues with that, because it would have to be a time zone that worked for the person that's gathering a group. And the other thing that we decided to do, so we're working with some guys in Switzerland and also some guys in Thailand. We decided that we would do it over 3 different time zones. Mm-hmm. So we landed on the Brisbane time zone. We landed at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, and then we landed on a Germany time zone, 7 p.m., and then a Californian time zone. So we could kind of get clusters that would work around those kinds of times. And so, so we basically put it out there, and we didn't spend any money on advertising. We just put a video up. There was a guy named Jason Chin who runs Love Says Go. He has quite a large network, and so he just put an email out there. And so we had our first info night. I think it was in December, and quite a number of people joined on three different info nights, and we encouraged them to if you're inspired by this, gather a group next time. We're going to run exactly the same info night. We're going to talk about the brutal facts. We're going to talk about multiplication, and we're going to really help you gather your own groups. So that's what we did in December. So we ran 3 of those info nights so that we could get enough traction. And I got to say, Steve, the first time I think we put the video out, and we were hoping that we were going to get a good response. the initial response from a major event that Jason had put a video on. We got 4 people interested in our info night. So we were discussing as a team, is this even going to work? Are people going to be able to gather on groups rather than as individuals? I think we could easily get individuals, but if we drew the line at groups, would that even work? So we had about the four people that were interested. Anyway, from there we're just totally blown away about what the Lord has done, because when we launched in January, we're doing it in 3 different time zones. We ended up having 22 nations that are joining us, 4 languages, so English, Spanish, Chinese, and German. People have been translating it into those 3 other languages, and 71 groups have joined with 500 students around the world. The other thing that we did as well is we decided that we would do, because I actually put out a question on the No Place Left page, and I asked the question, what was the initiation for people that have come into the paradigm shift for movement and church planting things? And a lot of people mention your book, but the number one paradigm shift was the 4 Fields intensives. And so when we did the 4 Fields intensives before, it's like 4 full days. It's like, how do you do that on Zoom? So I learned a few things I went to this really large conference last year. There was about 11,000 people online, and they had got people moving, and there was a lot of energy. So I thought we would implement some of those principles and do 3 8-hour immerse days. So the first immerse day that we started with was really on God's heart for the lost. And so that was just a tremendous time. We had people in groups, and they're celebrating together. You can see them all on screen. There's a lot of connection, a lot of energy, and people were just weeping, overcome with God's heart for the lost and the broken. We talked about heaven and hell, and just took people through that. So I feel like that was a real catalyst for where we are now. So we're up to about week 5. And I think we've been getting some reporting through. We're obviously not getting the entirety of what's happening out there, but in the last week we have 331 gospel shares, 85 decisions for Christ, and 11 new discipleship groups that are started. So that's in about 5 weeks. So I think that brings it up to about 22 new groups that have launched, and we haven't even got up to the stage where we've been able to train them in the gen mapping tool. So I'm excited about doing a massive gen map that's coming through the Acts Now moment. The gen mapping tool is a fantastic tool that we learned from No Place Left about tracking the health of groups and generational churches. So we're excited about implementing that, and but it's been amazing. So to be able to see what the Lord has been doing there's a whole bunch of groups in Myanmar that have been meeting and been seeing some tremendous breakthrough. There's other people in closed nations. I can't mention what nation they're from. There's actually 40 leaders from that we can't see them on screen, but they've all been meeting live on Zoom. And a lot of the European nations, it's just a lot of testimonies coming out of Spain, testimonies coming out of Germany. And we even have people joining us from the East Coast of the US that are meeting until like 12 o'clock at night. We had one lady in India that did the immerse day from 12 a.m. all the way to 8. So from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. And the gospel has been exploding through there. One of our local ladies, Sandra, she's been sharing the gospel for years, but hasn't been introduced to the tools like the gospel tool, the 3 circles. And she told me just on Sunday that in the last week that she's personally led 9 people to the Lord. There was another guy named Jan Eric from the Philippines, and I just heard that he had personally launched 4 new groups with new disciples, which has been which has been really exciting. The big advantage with the Acts Now moment is that immediately we are dealing directly with, out of the 500 students, we're dealing with the 71 facilitators. So these are the guys that have already gathered groups, which has been a huge advantage. So we've started to go through with some coaching with them, but we're just in the process as well as of setting up some long-term coaching, and we're looking for other coaches because there's some significant leaders in there that are really pursuing multiplication. And the exciting thing as well is we have people like Curtis, and you brought Curtis over to Australia. So I met him in the 4 Fields Intensive, and he's in Canada. So on the European time zone, he's been able to connect with some other ones in Canada on the ground to begin to create some relationships. So we're really praying that there's going to be some geographical connections that are going to be established out of it as well.
Because I know you've got obviously people in the Australian, New Zealand sort of time zone. You've also got guys like Russell Godward based in Britain, who's able to follow up some European contacts. Yes. And probably some African contracts.
We've got some large groups down in South Africa, which has been really exciting. And can I just say this, Steve, this was beautiful for me because a few years ago, we went over to the Philippines, and we went and ministered in this village. We did a 4-day House of Peace search, and we found I think her name is Annie. Annie was a lady that I had approached, and we got to baptize her on day 4. And so we've been coaching their leaders, and they've been joining us. So over Zoom, we see this household, and they're just really passionate for Jesus. They're going for it. And so we're starting to hear testimonies of how she's reaching out to her local community as well. So it just started with the one, and now I think that they've got 5 other churches in that one little village as well.
And all of these people from different regions around the world, you're not just training them, but you're training them to implement and to train others.
That's right. Yeah.
So how are you staying connected with these people?
Yeah, well, one of the ways, we obviously have the Acts Now moment connection over Zoom on the Tuesday night. We also have some further coaching with the coaches over on a Monday. But also we have an Acts Now moment student group, and so it's just been really exciting just to see what the Lord has been doing through that. So people are just constantly sending in testimonies of what the Lord has been doing. This is a lady in Canada that has just received Jesus after they shared the 3 circles with them. Here's a baptism that just happened recently, and they're going through the second command of Christ. People that are getting prayed for, they're training
a young fellow drawing the 3 circles.
And so lots of testimonies through kids. And so this is in the Philippines. And so her grandmother and cousin accepted Christ. So we're just seeing these testimonies that have just been coming through on a regular basis. And people and it's going further. Like we're seeing testimonies of ones that are training others. It's going to Zambia and also training leaders in Japan. So we didn't have any Japanese groups, but the ones that have been attending the Acts Now moment and now training other nations as well. So it's been exciting to see that effect.
What I love about it is it's taking advantage of a real shift that is probably permanent, which is the world is getting online with Zoom or similar tools, and the world in one sense is shrinking. At the same time, it's jumping from the online world into the local community.
Yes.
Through key contact points, people who can gather others, who can learn to train and coach and equip others. So it's both global, but it's local at the same time. You're not trying to reach Japan. You're trying to reach the people who will reach Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that really was our heart, because thinking about what we originally did in the Sending Center, so we could have easily picked up lots of people around the world that would have joined us. And just only had the Zoom connection. But this way, dealing with groups on the ground and groups, and that many of them are becoming churches, that's the really exciting transition. Is that there is the connection point over Zoom. Actually, in fact, Steve, I had a vision last year of these tanks, and it was like the tanks had about 5 or 6 people in those tanks, and they were taking out different things in the enemy's camp, but they were connected, over radio, over this broad, this wide network of tanks. And so that's when we made the shift to say we want to deal with groups specifically. And the other exciting thing is, and what I heard from Chuck Wood is that the number for critical mass for a group is about 6. So we actually created some incentives in our training to be able to really say, if you can gather a group of 6, like there's significant advantages to be able to do that. So most of our groups are actually 6+. So we believe that it's only week 5. We haven't gone through the entire thing, but my feeling is that there's going to be a lot more sustainability because they've actually been doing it on a regular basis, meeting in a home and gathering a fairly large group.
What's your sense of where this could head?
I just get goosebumps when you ask that. I truly am amazed by what the Lord has done. Thinking about from last year where we didn't have any infrastructure, we didn't have any desire to run an online school, to running a school of 50 that has gone tenfold now to 500 students. So just to see where the Lord takes us, it's exceedingly abundantly far greater than we could ask or imagine. But I think that we've seen, I'm just blown away by how there is a sense of this global family and excitement that every time that we meet, it's like, this is what the Lord is doing in this nation. This nation is just like, it's made the globe a smaller place, really. And so I feel like the potential for multiplication is really there. But we need more people to be able to come and coach these emerging leaders as they multiply.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now that could say, hey, I'm already coaching. I'm already a practitioner. What's the best way to get in touch? Would that be to visit the Acts Now Moment website?
Yeah, so you can contact us on actsnowglobal.com. There's a info at actsnowglobal. Would love to be able to hear from you if you have that on your heart. You'd like to be able to train some leaders, coach some leaders, and
Or if somebody's saying, hey, I could get a group together, could we apply for the next school?
Absolutely.
All that goes through the at the moment, the actsnowglobal.com
That's right.
website.
Yeah.
And we'll link to that on the podcast notes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your hope of where God's going to take this?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, is we received a prophetic word by a guy named Jason Ma, who has seen 300 movements on college campuses, and I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, and he prophesied that there was going to be a global sending center that the Lord was going to establish, and that in the first 5 years that there was going to be 10,000 multiplications. So that's still way out of reach, but to see what the Lord is taking us from tenfold is, that's our heart, that we would see multiplication in every unreached people group. So every tribe, every tongue, it just feels like the Lord is just expanding our capacity and our vision.
To find out more about Joel's training, visit actsnowglobal.com. To find out about the new book coming out, Your Part in God's Story, and the 40-day challenge, visit movements.net. Thanks for listening. I'm Steve Addison.